Let's talk about Ethan, a two-time success story of the high-ticket growth consulting program. Over a year ago, when we first spoke with Ethan, he made his first $3,000 as a consultant, and here we are 12 months later, and he's been able to 5x his income to $15,000 on any given month, working with 2 clients using the model. And something particularly special about Ethan is that he's a salesperson with maybe less experience than some of you watching this video. I had the pleasure of getting to develop him from a setter to a closer to a manager, and now all the way through to a consultant. And in this video, we're going to cover his journeys, the highs and lows, getting clients, losing clients, and really everything that it takes to become a successful growth consultant. So without further ado, let's dive in. Put a little clip in. This was you back then, and then this is you now. That's funny. Okay, sweet. Okay, what's going on, guys? Caleb here, and I'm on with Ethan. Ethan, how are you?
Doing well, man. Couldn't be better. How about yourself?
I am doing well, doing very well. Even better because we have you back with a part 2 for, we're going to call it growth consulting case study. You were one of the earlier members of the program. I think you had a very interesting story kind of coming into high ticket, and it's just been very fascinating from afar to be able to observe not like your development and how you've been able to go out there and find clients and navigate and get yourself to a pretty sizable income now. So I guess I pointed to you. Where are you at as of today? You know, what's kind of the keystone or your second case study? Everyone's always curious. What are the numbers? What are you working on, and how is it? And then we'll work backwards into what that journey looked like.
100%. Right now, I have one primary client as far as FSC goes. When I joined, they were doing about 80 to 90,000 a month. That was quite inconsistent as well. They would see 50,000. When I joined, the goal was to get them to at least 100,000 in just like revenue. Right, just like consistent clients because it's a service-based business. Right now we hit 188,000.
Whew!
Yes,
Congrats! That's exciting.
And we did that by just we had one setter. We got the second one. I trained both. When I came in, the first setter had a 14% show rate.
Why did you even have him at that point? Jeez.
She had a DM setting background, but they promoted her to phone setter with minimal training, right? So I trained both of them. One of them right now has 50% show rate, and the other one has 75% show rate, which is a substantial improvement than 14. You know what I mean? And with the 50% setter, we have a separate calendar where we double book our sets. So we're moving smart about that as well. But we pretty much doubled the business. It's much more consistent. It's just not like pure cash 180K next month. We don't know what to do. It's also I think we're about 85,000 in just consistent revenue month to month for the next 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
where I'm at now.
incredible. Yeah. And what do you get to take from that too when the month is all said and done?
What was that, sorry?
What do you get to take from that, or for yourself personally, when all is said and done?
I just based off of my personal income, like the percentage I take just from that company. I would say anywhere between, depending on the month as well, 8 to 12,000. 8,000 are like where the company has logistical struggles, and I have to be a little bit more flexible, which I shouldn't. But usually 12. Yeah.
That is solid. And how many hours a week would you say goes into making that for yourself?
Me personally, I look at it 2 ways. There's like minimum required hours, right? And then there's like what I like to put in personally. I would say anyone can do this like maybe 10, 20 hours a week because I use AI a lot. But like me personally, right? I'm insane. So I do like 40, 50, which is why like I got in like 3 months ago. That's how quick we scaled. I think that's the main reason as well, like how quick we scaled. Because I would just like, if a lead no shows, I'm like, I'll listen to the call. If I can't find anything, I'll look at when the lead came in, how much revenue they have, what business they have, what niche. I take a look at all of those things and compare, like just run all of that data through AI as well, right? And then find out why they might have no show. And then come up with something to increase the show rate. So you can also just take the transcript, put it into AI, and ask like, why did this person no show, right?
Right. Yeah.
There's 2 options. Both of them gonna get results, but like I prefer the more hardworking way.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've always kind of done a little bit of both because there's some context that AI can't do, but it's really nice when you do have large sums of data just to kind of throw it into the machine and then get back kind of a consolidated answer. But that is incredible. So you've got a client where the minimum required hours is around 10 hours a week, which is what, maybe 40 hours a month to make anywhere between 8 to 12,000. I think for a lot of closers watching this, what's the alternative, right? Well, you're going to have to take however many sales calls and collect anywhere between 80 to $120,000 in cash themselves to make that kind of an earning. And that is definitely more than a 10-hour work week, unless you have a perfect calendar. But even still, with today's day and age, you're just not going to have show rates and close rates of what they used to be back in 2018, 2019, unless you got like a
The golden
miraculously hot
girls.
offer. Right. You could just kind of show up and close. Let's wind back the clock. You are a repeat success story for anybody watching this. We have another testimonial with Ethan. I think it will show up somewhere on the screen. But let's go back to where were you at right before joining the program?
Good question. It hasn't been long, but it's been long. So I was a setter.
That is so
I,
true. Hasn't been long, but it's been long.
so basically, when I started considering, I was a setter, right?
Hmm.
When I had the idea of it, but like when I made the decision, I was a closer. I was promoted to setter from closer within like 4 months because I just kind of
Hmm.
dominated the game in that company.
Hmm.
Takes their help as well in terms of negotiations.
Hmm.
But then when I became a closer, just had some personal issues with the manager. I think both sides were at fault with that. I can't
Hmm.
blame one side. Um,
Hmm.
but essentially, it came down to their decision to terminate me, and I worked with another company as a closer, and I was like, I have very little control over like what's going on in here, right? Like for
Right.
me, like what's the biggest thing about like what's one thing you can do to make a salesperson mad, right?
Hmm.
Send their commissions late. And
Yep.
there's like very little things you can do about that, like commissions, dealing with the owners, dealing with the managers, sometimes dealing with your peers is a
Yep.
problem, right? So all of
Hmm.
those combined, I was like, you know what, let me join FSC. At least like I think of it as this like when I was a setter, I was like, damn man, like closers, like I do these like 10 out of 10 sets and they can close these.
Right.
Right. And then when I'm a closer, like I have people who pressure me for like random reasons, and then
Right.
dealing with the manager and all of that stuff, expectations, all that stuff. I'm like, at least let me have more control where like I'm that guy who controls like the
Hmm.
marketing, the sales, everything. That way,
Hmm.
at least if I suck, I'm like, I sucked. So I can learn from what I did.
Right. That's on me and myself and what I did, not on anybody else. No, totally. I think it's funny. It's a game of slowly going from like a setter is kind of like sometimes they're set up, they're good, but they're kind of worthless. They're very replaceable, dispendable. They're a dime a dozen, and then you find your way into being a closer where you're kind of helpless because it's like, oh my god, I've got all the stuff around me, but I'm really trapped by those people that are around me. And then you find your way up into eventually being a closer or consultant to where, okay, now I kind of own the reins. I remember very distinctly, like my sales managers were the bane of my existence. And it was like every offer, no matter like how good it seemed, I'd step in and I'm like, okay, I'm going to eventually have to put on a plastic smile and agree with some BS jargon that I do not agree with or doctrine because that's what they believe to be true, because that's what I need to do just to keep my job here and do my thing. The number of like meetings I'd attend and just like you just play the part just to make them smile, and then on the call you go back to doing your own thing. So, but was there
Oh
a
yeah.
breaking point in your mind you felt like that kind of sparked you to join, or what do you feel like it was an easy transition for you just because of the circumstances?
I would say what you mentioned is one of them. When I was a setter, right, the manager, like the setter manager, the guy who's supposed to
Hmm.
know it all, he had two
Right.
setters, and I could remember this thing. Like one of the guys had like 20 sets that week, and he had a
Hmm.
44% show rate. Been there like
Hmm.
8 months, and the other guy who's
Hmm.
been there 2 years, 15 sets, 30% show rate. That's three people who showed up, right? Roughly. Sorry, 9 sets and three people who showed up. So
Wow.
this guy is teaching me like, setting. You know what I mean? I came in,
Wow.
did my own thing. First week, I was just getting in the ropes. I did 60% show rate. Second week, I was 84% show rate. And two of my deals closed on the second week, right? And all of
Wow.
them were next day.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like when I see that, I'm like, this guy, obviously knows less than me, right? And he's
Mm-hmm.
managing a team and getting paid for it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I kind of realized I'm like, I just need to be in his position,
Yeah.
right? And the way it got there, probably that was, my imagination back then is like
Mm-hmm.
network, people like them, they put them in that position, right?
Yep.
Because that's kind of when I realized like how people perceive you is kind of
Mm-hmm.
more important than the results you bring. Because that guy's been a
Sure.
manager for a year, right? More than a
Yep.
year, probably. So I was like, I just need to be perceived as a professional, someone
Mm-hmm.
who knows what he's doing. And when I'm in
Mm-hmm.
there, I can already do better than these people. And if I suck, I learn faster. So I'm going to learn, or I'm going to go to you, right? Because like
Mm-hmm.
the reason I had those 60-80% show rates, you were my mentor, right?
Mm-hmm.
You remember my first days of setting the course.
Yeah, yeah. I try to be humble, but yeah, no, you were a different animal when it came to selling back then compared to now. Now you're a gun, the definition of a gun, a player all around. There's not an environment I couldn't put you in sales wise, you couldn't find yourself in sales wise, where you wouldn't figure out a way to stand on your own 2 feet and then rock cash up. Even with a time zone difference. For people that are curious, I mean, you're actually off in Turkey, so you're not even in U.S. time zone. You're playing the evening hours, the weird midday hours, the showing up, and so yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
just
I
incredible.
wanted to
So,
get into that. Like my biggest problem was my energy when I got into sales. And I heard from you, like
mhm.
Caleb personally asked me if I was depressed, right? When I was selling.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because like I started working at like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. until like 3, 4 a.m. And like that's the times where your melanin is peak. Sorry,
Yep.
melatonin is peak. And then that's
Hmm.
when you're supposed to be sleeping, but that's when I fell asleep and then the sleep didn't matter. Right. And
Right.
at one point I was like, I just need to act like I have energy, you know?
Hmm. Yep.
So I can
Yep.
up it. I don't need to have anything. So yeah, like time zone different that gives me a lot more fire as well. Cause like there's people in the United States or like these good time zones with better privileges than me who can't do
Hmm.
what I do, right? Those managers as an example.
Not at all. Like I have not seen a correlation in the program between someone's circumstances and someone's network and the ability to get results. It's like it's more with how it's like actually the less time people have had in the game, the better that they tend to do because they're not over informed pessimism, so something along those
100%.
lines. No.
Yeah, I
And what
think
is
it's
that?
also like the
Mhm,
amount of options they have, right? If I
mhm,
was in a first world country, I don't know, maybe I have not been as successful, right? I was kind of
mhm,
forced in a position where I had to be successful
right.
in negative environment. Like the odds were against me, right?
Mhm,
But I still did it, which, I think you need to have something like that. Like you asked, what was it that fired me, made me, push me to the decision. I think you
yep.
need to use whatever you have in your hands as a
Mhm,
energy, right? For me, I was just angry. I was
right.
just like, I don't deserve this, right? They
Yep.
don't deserve this. I deserve this. I'm gonna take their
Mhm,
place.
yeah.
Some
That's
people,
that. No, that's
some
a
people
big one.
might
I
be
think these
sad.
are.
Some people might be depressed. Maybe you're anxious. Whatever emotion you're feeling, just take it as like an energy, right?
Yeah.
Use whatever you have in your hand. For me, I was just pissed at these people. I was like,
Right.
you're stupid. I'm not. You're there. I'm not. I'm gonna take your place.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that gut felt like this is ridiculous. No, 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 no more of this.
It's a
Now,
fact guy try coaching me to be fit.
mhm. Yeah,
Know
yeah,
what
it's
I
a poor
mean?
guy, poor guy teaching
And
you
when
how
you
to be
like
rich,
that, you
right?
realize how ridiculous that is.
Yeah. No, truly,
Like
truly,
you're trying to
truly.
make me lose fat. You don't even have six packs, and you're trying to teach me how to get a six pack. What are you talking
Right.
about, brother? You know?
Right.
So
Right.
that's what I was mad about.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what pushed me to become an FSC in the first place. I was just mad.
No, 1000%. And what did that journey look like for finding? Well, so you had a client and then that time came to pass. So we'll save that because we have another video where we did that. But what did it look like after your first client and finding your second one?
Good question. So first client, this is something I want to tell as well. Because
Mhm,
usually for me, I'm a person who can't do things at the first time. I fail
mhm,
at one component usually. So the
mhm,
first time finding clients was tough, right? And
mhm,
then consistency over time, I was like, okay, these channels bring more people in. I can do this, I can do that. I didn't even know how to DM people, and I figured out how to DM people, right?
mhm,
When I first found the first client, the biggest problem was And I lost that client, as you know. The
Mm-hmm.
biggest problem was setting good expectations with the client, right?
Mm-hmm.
This client wanted me to be responsible of the close rate while I was coming in as primarily as a setting manager, right? Not as an
Mm-hmm.
FSC. And I said, I kind of agreed, right? Because I just wanted to do something outside of
Right.
closing and setting.
Yeah.
But even though I almost doubled the production of the setting team, closers didn't show up to the calls, etc. Right, stuff like that happened, and I was terminated. And then
Yep.
I moved on to find other clients. I found two more clients. One of them backed off the last second. I found one
Mm-hmm.
really, really good client, but that's where the second problem kicked in. I pretty much got over like setting expectations and actually like
Mm-hmm.
expressing, like I'm like, it's this way, there's no other way, right? If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be responsible of these metrics. You can't make me responsible for these other stuff, right? I was
Mm-hmm.
over that. I was able to set good expectations, but the time was like I wasn't able to um have, I would say, the trust over time, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Just like keeping a consistent image. And
Mm-hmm.
even if, like, example, if I just decided to, on the Sunday, decided to cut my hair and, cut my beard, I would look completely different. And that's where like the perception comes in, right? Like if they perceive me as this Ethan professional, if I
Yep.
make a massive change in my look, I'm gonna lose that perception. Because they're looking at a
I
different
was
person now.
Yeah, I'll say as an off record for any of you guys that maybe know Ethan personally or get to know Ethan. Ethan has like moon phases. He can be a completely different person from one day to the next. It's actually quite impressive how much you can shift. But no, yeah, it's interesting because I can even think of my own experience having some of those. I did a post that your first clients are for learning, your third client is for earning. So your first one, don't expect it to stick around long. Your second one, probably don't expect it to stick around one. By your third one, that's when the dots will start to connect and you'll get a good grip on here's how I set expectations, here's how I actually produce and perform and collaborate, and then here's how I manage how they view me. And I really feel like it's a game of your first 3 months doing those three things right, and then if you can cross 3 months of that, your stick rate is incredibly long. Usually the deals fall or break somewhere in the first 3 months or so, just because people mess up one of those three things and or don't have the confidence. But I think that goes into bucket number 2 or 3, which is how you're perceived. Like if you're perceived as unconfident, they'll lose certainty in the vision
Oh
or
yeah.
in your leadership.
It's
So
how you say things, how you look, right? I love this example, right? I'm
mhm.
Ethan and I make $20,000 a year. And then there you can say this way. I'm Ethan and I make $20,000 a year. Like, you see the difference
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
tone? Like, I feel
Hmm.
like I'm not and the second one, I feel like I'm not sure if I'm making that money. And the first one,
Right.
I am making that money. And then your
Right.
expressions, right? If you're sad and you're smiling, like, it doesn't make sense? So it's like
Yeah.
getting those dots right. Um, in terms of your perception, I think of it like three ways. But the foundation is like how good you communicate, how good you can show yourself, make yourself perceived.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
that's
especially
like,
when executing, especially when executing too. Like that is with clients. I've even felt myself. I feel like my edge sometimes is just like those things we talked about earlier, and you definitely have it for certain. Which is just that I deserve this. Like no, 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 no. Like no, this is what we're doing. We're going like this, and yeah, I need you to do these things for me, and then just let me fly, do my thing.
yeah,
So many guys have such a hard time showing up to a client with that kind of attitude and energy of just like no, 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 none of this is. We're not keeping any
yeah,
of this.
because
You
if you
need
avoid
you
that, right, like if you avoid that,
right,
and then you don't get results, who are they gonna blame?
right. Yep, yep,
You know.
yep.
I think of it as three layers. First is like foundation. Again, like
Hmm.
this can be all things in life. Foundation, like how good you take care of yourself. Do you groom? Do you move? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? In the days I don't move, I feel sleepy. I feel sluggish. And
Hmm.
that can, if when you take like meetings, that they can get that energy.
Hmm.
And then I think there's like a tactical level of like that's like knowledge, right? That could be how do you train setters, how do you train closers, right? What do you do when it's a low show, no show rate week, right?
Hmm.
Um, So those are like how do you process the information, right? Technical.
Right.
So that could be tonality, that could be, scripts, etc.
Yeah.
And I think there's a tactical level, which is at the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where your experience starts to come in, right? Because like if
Yeah.
you, Caleb, and me are the same in our foundations and our techniques, which we kind of are, right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
train me,
Mm-hmm.
what separates you from me is your tactical advantage because you have more
Mm-hmm.
experience than me, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
mhm.
That's a really good point. And I would say, yeah, you probably have the strongest parallel to that because we had spent so much time on a lot of different projects that you understand how to see the world or sales environments the same way that I do, and you approach solving problems the same way that I do, and you've become more diplomatic in your kind of your tactic for doing that. I think the only thing now is now putting in ancillary skill sets. Like if you knew a little bit of media buying and a little bit of funnel design, which I would say it's incredible that you've gotten as far as you have, only doing the sales management piece and enablement piece for people, because I would say that is actually one of the lower leverage things that can produce a high output, but it's where most people that come to the program start, is that's the stuff that they know how to do. So no, that's incredible. But so okay, so we covered where you were at today, your goal. We covered how that looked like joining the program, your development into it, your finding of this client, you're sticking with this client. um, what other important things do you feel like somebody should know about that experience, and how attainable do you feel like this was? Because I would say that you had spent a lot of time with me, but let's say you were a little bit colder. Like, how real is this for somebody who's thinking about it?
If I just saw this, I would approach it with skepticism, right? FSC, because like there's a billion courses out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is kind of like working with companies who sell courses. Like this is kind of the conclusion I came to at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
If you just put in the time and effort into something, it's like if you give like Da Vinci, right? Or like Michelangelo, like any big artists, just three colored pencils, right?
Mm-hmm.
Red, yellow, green. Do you think they won't make a masterpiece? They will make a
Mm-hmm.
masterpiece. So it's not about the tools, it's about the creator at the end of the day. So
Mm-hmm.
you can find the best course, but brother, if you're not good in here, right? The
Mm-hmm.
foundation, right? Some people learn
Mm-hmm.
slow for some reason. They like me, I know how I learn, right? I
Right.
learned repetition. My first two clients, I fucked up big time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you need to also know like what happens after you fuck up. For me, that was like devastating emotionally, right? I
Mm-hmm.
had to learn how to recover from that. Because like if I can recover from that, that's going to be on my next call with the client, and he's going to see that there's going to be energy, you know.
Right. I think I remember your second one too. It was a big like, what did I get wrong here? And I remember we looked at it, did an after action report, and we were like, well, they just, something wrong in how we were showing up. So yeah.
Exactly. So the first client kind of blew over, and then that affected the second client and how it was showing up. So like for someone who's looking at this, it's like first you got to take a look at Caleb, like not to blow his horn, you know what I mean, but like a guy like me living in Turkey, right? He
Hmm.
took me from like being that guy. Watch the first part, right? That was where the transfer like was beginning to happen. You know what I mean? Watch the first
Yeah.
part and then
Yeah.
look at me now, you know?
Hmm.
So this guy took that guy from that. And if you're in the what was the community the free one we have on school?
Oh, close it into consultants.
If you guys go back to like 2024 recordings on those, you can find
Hmm.
me. Look at that.
Hmm.
That was like before FSC days, right?
Oh, that's
I'm real,
hilarious.
right? Like take a look at those recordings. This guy
Yeah.
took that guy to this guy,
Hmm.
you know? All credit to him. But
Yeah.
again, if he can do that, I think he can help anyone, especially if you're in a first world country. Like you have no
Hmm.
excuse.
Right.
I don't care. You have no excuse, right?
Truly.
For someone approaching this, remember it's not about the tools, it's about you.
Yeah.
I'm not the
Yeah.
sharpest tool in the box, right? Maybe Caleb isn't. I think he
Mhm.
is. Maybe he isn't. Who knows? But like
I'm
he
definitely
took
not.
me from nothing to something. You know
Yeah.
that's good enough for me. That's
No, I
about you as a
appreciate that.
person. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I will also say too that for the record, there wasn't a special handout or advantage that I gave Ethan other than just answers to questions when he asked them. There wasn't like, hey, here's an opportunity on a silver platter, or hey, here, have this, or hey, it's an inside job, or this is set up. Truly, you, and this is, it still amazes me. right? How much you have kind of owned all that goes into kind of creating your success and how consistent you've been. And I have seen the journey that you've gone through, tactic wise, skill wise, personal wise, and all the development of all of those things. And I would say, like, I know you're not showing it, but if you want to show the jumper, Ethan's got one of the official sales consulting jumpers for being a success story of the program. And I will say, you have earned that full and full. Just as much. I mean, some of the other members have too, but I would say yours is, wear that with pride and know that, all of your success is yours. And I'm very excited to see where you go over the next couple of years. It's only been 1 year from the last testimonial to now. And I think we've probably only known each other for 2 years, maybe 2.5 since then.
Yeah,
So that is a
barely
tight
2 years.
amount. Yeah, that's a tight amount of time. I'm always a little bit envious too, because like I didn't have a mentor to me in doing this either. I didn't have like a resource I could go to, show them, be like, hey, why did this happen? Why did that happen? So, but yeah, no, I would say with that, I mean, this has been
Well,
incredible.
one thing I
Mhm.
want to mention to people is like I didn't leverage Caleb as much as I could, right? He
No,
gave,
yeah.
he gave me the opportunity, but me being, I'm a very stubborn guy,
No, your second client was that all the way. You like, oh, I
Yeah,
closed somebody and then it blew up, and it's like, what the hell? Like, why did you not book in, or so
exactly. So if you guys get in, leverage him, right? Like you took someone like me to what I am now. And I also wanted to mention, like, this is something I was thinking about on my own the other day.
mm,
That I wanted people to hear. I was in my bed thinking about this. Like the reason I'm here, like 20% my effort, 80% Caleb's, right?
mm,
In terms of why I'm here. If Caleb decided to, kind of be a bum closer, making 8K a month and not get into this and teach other people, I would
mm,
probably not be in this video,
mm,
right? So like when you're doing this, also think about people like me who's saying this to Caleb now, right? If he didn't do this, I wouldn't be here. And all of the other people who are doing the testimonials with him. Imagine if you were in Caleb's place right now, right? Who made it, and now you're talking to someone like me who's thanking him for actually doing what he did,
mm.
which is powerful
Yeah,
in my mind. Unless you're a psychopath,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
There are a handful of those in sales, right? um, but no, I mean, this means a lot. I really appreciate it. And yeah, both ways. I mean, I played a part in this. I would say, you really owned a lot of it. I gave nothing more than the direction and a little bit of, clarity when it was needed. And you did a lot for kind of running and rolling with it. It's still, it's funny to see your updates over WhatsApp from time to time. And there's a lot more nuances that I think go into managing client relationships and the attainability of everything. But once more, as Ethan had put, if you've got the right mindset coming into this stuff, all the other stuff kind of fades to black. It's just like, are you going to do it or are you not? And then how fast do you move through it? So, yeah.
Yeah,
But
don't
no,
have a victim mindset, right? If you take any great artist, give them three colored pencils, they're gonna make a masterpiece, right? Don't cry about having three pencils. See
yeah.
what he can do with those three pencils. And Caleb has more than three pencils, trust me.
Yeah, but that's all you guys need, right? Setting, closing, and management. I'd say your three pencils right there before ads, funnels, da, 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 run it on. So, all right, incredible. Well, yeah, Ethan, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you coming on. And for those of you guys who are watching this and are curious about having a similar journey for yourself, well, somewhere around this video there will be a button for you to book a call and get access to. Um, it was fractional sales consulting. If any of you guys watch it, we are now pivoting the name towards high ticket growth consulting, something in that vein. I haven't quite decided on what it is yet, but you will see buttons around this that will guide you to what is going to be the next step to starting that journey for yourself. With that, Ethan, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate having you on. And I guess until the next one, guys, all the best. Cheers.
Cheers.